This will be recorded so that we can share it on our local learning lab, which is an exclusive member benefit for those of you that may not be aware of that yet. And with that, I will go ahead and pass the mic to George and not take up any more of his precious time. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Can everybody see my screen there? Outstanding. Well, I am super grateful for, as I mentioned, everybody's time. I can go for hours and hours and hours, but I'm going to try to keep it to within 60 minutes. And at the end of that time, if y'all want to hang out for longer, I've got a lot more content to go through, but I promise that I will leave time for questions. And this is a big, important topic. So endeavor to make these as interactive as we possibly can make them. So if you have a question along the way, please do utilize the chat feature. Feel free to unmute and just ask the question. You'll have my phone number. You'll have my email address. There'll be a lot of communication. This will also be recorded moving forward and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's just get into it. We're here to talk about financial wellness and 401k. So once it happened that a traveler was traveling along, as travelers often do, and she came upon a work site. And she saw that there were 3 workers cutting stone, and she was curious as to what they were working on. So she approached the first stone cutter and she said, "Excuse me, can I ask you what you're doing?" And the first stone cutter looked up at her angrily and he said, "What does it look like I'm doing? I'm cutting these stupid rocks. I've got the worst job in the entire country. My hands hurt, my head hurts, my back hurts, everything hurts." She said, "I'm so sorry for your trouble. I hope that things turn around and look up for you." She moved on to the second stone cutter and she said, "Excuse me, can I ask you what you're doing?" And he looks up at her, very focused look in his eye. He said, "I am working to become the best stone cutter in the entire country." She said, "That is a worthwhile and admirable goal right there. I hope that it works out." She moved on to the third stone cutter, and she got about halfway there. She thought, is this person whistling a happy tune? And sure enough, she got close enough, and he was. She said, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you what you're doing?" And he looks up at her with this gleam in his eye. He said, "I'm building a cathedral." So 3 people doing essentially the same thing, but having completely different experiences. The lesson there is how you look at something makes all the difference. So our perspective on whatever it is we're doing makes all the difference. If you think that you are bad with money, well, then you're probably going to be bad with money. If you feel like you are good at money, that you're going to be somebody who is an investor and will be financially successful, then you're probably going to be financially successful. And for the purposes of today, if you are somebody, if you're a business owner, a leader within your organization, and you want to help your team, your people to become financially successful, I think that you're going to be able to do that. And I'm interested in helping to facilitate that. So how you look at something makes all the difference, and how you talk about something also makes a huge difference. How you articulate what it is that you're trying to accomplish and how you present information plays a huge role in the success of it. And odds are you probably had this experience at some point in your life, either with friends, family, committees you've been a part of, kids, employees, where you lead a horse to water, but you cannot make that horse drink. So it's a very frustrating thing whenever we're attempting to move another human being to do something, even if it's the thing that makes the most sense in the world. That doesn't mean that it's going to work. So how you look at something, how you communicate it, how you think about it, how you talk about it, all these things is such an important thing. And I know that entrepreneurship is a lot. It is a lot to successfully operate a business. It is a lot to have employees. It's a lot to have a successful culture. And I commend you for doing all of those things and doing such important work, because it is so important. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about what financial wellness is. We talk about what a successful program looks like. Talk about why a lot of programs fail, what needs to be present. I want to talk about something called self-determination theory, which from my perspective, one of the keys to making a program effective. We're going to talk about putting in place in your organization. And then we're going to talk about the local first 401k, which is, I think, why everybody is actually here. And again, we're going to get through this pretty quick. My goal is always to make these as interactive and entertaining as possible. I'll let you be the judge of whether or not I'm going to actually accomplish that or not. And finally, before I get into everything, I want everybody to know that I've made a lot of good financial decisions over the course of my life. And I've also made a lot of terrible financial decisions over the course of your life. So wherever you are, wherever your employees are, I'm confident that I can help them get to where they want to go. Money is such a personal thing, and it's such an important thing. It touches every different aspect of our lives. So the faster we can get to financial security, then we're positioned to actually pursue financial prosperity. And that is what I want for everybody. This gentleman right here, his name is Daniel Kahneman. He was, I think, the first psychologist to win the Nobel Prize in economics, or could have been vice versa. Anyway, Daniel became fascinated with why human beings make decisions around money. And he researched it. He wrote this book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And he figured out that 90% of the decisions we make about money are based on emotion. So think about that for a second. Like 90% of the decisions I make around money are emotional. Like, oh, you know what? That's probably right. So we're very, very, very emotional creatures. One of the things that Daniel said after researching financial services and the world of investments and all that stuff, he said, referring to Wall Street and big financial companies, that it's an entire industry built on the illusion of skill. I thought, my goodness, that's a very, very damning thing to say. And I very much agree with it. I think that traditional financial services and financial companies make things extremely complicated and complex. And I think that they want to confuse people and make it seem like in order to get this stuff done, we have to charge high fees to justify what we're doing and all that stuff. And I just couldn't be more different than that. I would rather be useful than brilliant. And maybe that's an excuse for not being brilliant. But what I'm interested in doing is simplifying this as much as possible. I'm extremely confident that the vast majority of this stuff you can do on your own. But that is where I am coming from on all of this. So the problem, we are struggling as Americans with money. 2/3 of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And I was guilty of this for the majority of my 20s. We are abusing credit card debt. I think right now that's ticking up. Like right now, the average American has $7,000 or $8,000 of credit card debt. Majority of us couldn't come up with $500 in cash in case of an emergency. And there's a lot of employers out there. In fact, half of private companies don't offer retirement plans to their employees. And then a big part of the problem is a lot of the, look at these poor people, a lot of the financial literacy training that we get it from the providers of the products. And so I just think that a lot of the time our incentives are misaligned. And I think, I don't think that we should take our health advice from pharmaceutical companies. I don't think that we should take our diet advice from McDonald's. And so therefore, I don't think necessarily that the company that's making a mutual fund is the company that I should take my financial advice from. So a lot of problems. Who's responsible for solving these? Who is responsible for solving these problems? Is it the company? Is it your responsibility for making these benefits available? And I don't think that it necessarily is. I think that it's all, it's on us. And I really wish that we had been taught a lot of these things in school. I wish I had learned about budgeting and investing in school. So I don't know if you consider yourself to be responsible for it. A lot of people resist that. They say, well, I don't want to be, matriarchal or patriarchal in my approach, telling my employees what to do. But I do think that it is an opportunity, whatever your belief on that is. I think that it is an opportunity that you have as an employer to make these kinds of benefits available to your employees. And these things are very, very time sensitive. The reality about money is that there's an opportunity cost. And simply put, the longer I wait to pursue these financial goals and objectives that I have, the harder they become to reach. So as the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So breaking news coming across the wire. something called the Secure Act 2.0 went into effect in January. And the government, they recognize, apparently, that Americans are struggling. And in order to make 401k retirement saving more available to more people, they wanted to remove some of the barriers that are standing in the way of offering 401k plans. Some of those things are complexity because they can be complicated, they can be expensive. So to remove at least the expensive part of it, part of the Secure Act offers a lot of really big tax benefits to employers to cover the cost in the form of tax deductions and, more importantly, tax credits for putting a new 401k plan in place. As with all things tax, it always depends. I hate to say that. I hate to say it depends, but it just depends on how many employees you have and a lot of different variables. But that is part of what we will be talking about, and part of the process that we take people through who do raise their hand and say, you know what, this 401k thing, I've been thinking about it for a long time. I'd like to explore it. We will walk through the process of helping you to understand what the tax situation will be for your actual organization. But before we go any further, it kind of goes without saying, I'm confident that everybody on this call wants to do what is right for their employees. You are interested in creating an environment where your people can be thriving and successful, and you believe that your employees are part of your corporate family and that you want to help them to be as successful as they can be. So if that's not you, well, let's just stop, and I encourage you to go and do something else with your time, because I think that wanting to position your people for success is one of the keys here to all of this. Briefly, that is me. I've been a financial guy for over 20 years at this point. I own and operate a company called Financial Consulting Professionals. We are an Arizona-based financial firm. Honored to be named to Investopedia's list of the top 100 financial advisors 4 years in a row. Been working with 401ks my entire career. I also own and operate an Arizona financial literacy or financial wellness company. I do a podcast called Lifeblood, which we do every day. I'm an author, and of course, I am a Local First member, and I'm a dad. That's James. It's a pretty recent picture. I can't say that it was actually today, but that's the umbrella that I was talking about earlier, and that is Jack. So James is 6, Jack is 3, and we have a little girl on the way. My wife Emily and I have a little girl on the way coming in May. So it's the most important thing. What do we want? We want happy, healthy employees that are doing the wave. That's obviously not true, but we want happy, healthy employees. The more, when we're worried about money, it's like a wet blanket on top of us. It's always just in the back of our mind. It's stressful. It follows us around, and I only have so much headspace. When there's something in my head that's occupying 30% of it, money problems, well, then I don't have that 30% available to be focused on what I'm doing professionally. So the more we can help our employees to become financially secure and find financial peace of mind, that's going to make them obviously happier, but more available to fully commit to our work. So then this behavior gap definitely exists, and it exists for all of us. The behavior gap on one side is, this is what I intellectually understand. I understand that I'm supposed to be saving money. I'm supposed to spend less money than I make. And then there's what I actually do. And this is true. I'm supposed to probably eat less calories than I burn. I'm supposed to do all these things. But closing that gap is always a tricky thing. And that is a lot of the work that I focused on. So we're talking about helping our people to become financially successful. I think we could take things down to first principles. And first principles are just what is fundamentally true. Let's strip away as many of the assumptions as we possibly can. Let's get rid of all sort of that extra crap in our heads that sort of clouds our thinking and is distracting. What do we really need to do to position our people for financial success? That is the work that I'm interested in doing, and helping you figure out within your organization what is going to make the most sense. So financial wellness program, fundamentally, financial literacy is is what do I understand? Do I have the fundamental knowledge about cash flow, budgeting, investing? And I don't think that it's obvious that all of us do, because again, we didn't necessarily learn this. It wasn't part of our curriculum when we were going through school. So we need to have a resource for helping people with that piece of it. But then the wellness part is, how do I actually put these things into practice? Because it's that unlock, it's closing the behavior gap. And that's what financial wellness, from my perspective, is all about. Is let's give people the tools that they need, the education and information they need to correctly use money and put it to work for them and actually do it. So a lot of the reasons that programs like this fail is because it's too many tactics. So we're just going to try this new thing. It's kind of like addressing the symptoms and just moving from thing to thing to thing to thing without having an overarching strategy. And because of that, we start doing something, we stop doing it. We're going to start doing this, we're going to stop doing that. So it's just not cohesive. And then oftentimes it's not integrated with any other benefits that we might have within our organization. So one of the big keys to helping your people to be financially successful is to take a long-term view. If you've got 10 employees and 5 of them are struggling with money, which that's probably a fair assessment. If 2/3 of us are living paycheck to paycheck within any set group of people, it's probably going to be around that. Now, none of this is going to be a magic wand that we can just wave and all of a sudden the problems are going to go away. The long-term view says, if we can get 10 to 15% of our people financially secure every year, well, we'd wake up 5 years from now and be like, wow, I'm really, really glad that we committed to doing that. So it's all about incremental change. It's all about building towards and building on successes. So taking that long-term view. Table stakes of this are that I believe that your organization must be mission driven. You must have and talk about the values of your organization. People seek a purpose-driven life. That's a fundamental truth. And for better or for worse, we find a lot of our purpose by the work that we do. If we're at work 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day, sometimes longer, that becomes a big part of our identity. And I'm not making a judgment on that one way or another. It just is. And so if you as an organization, when you're talking about your values and you're consistently revisiting these, you're going to have a very, very healthy culture where your people feel like they're part of something that is bigger than themselves. That's why Local First is such a great organization. Our community and the people in our community, that's what really makes for a rich and happy life. And so the more that we can support one another and support the businesses and then support the people that work in those businesses, I think that's really what it's all about. So wanting to do right by your employees, working on a bigger vision and consistently messaging that and talking about it, I think is a really, really important thing. Self-determination theory is the key that unlocks a lot of this. And what it is, it's the more we can be intrinsically self-motivated versus externally motivated, that is the key. You can lead that horse to water and drag it, drag it, and drag it. Try to put its head really close to the water. You're still not necessarily making it drink, versus if the horse, my analogy here is going to get lost. The more we can help people to be self-motivated, the better off we'll be. The more successful your business will be. And that's what self-determination is designed to do, self-determination theory. So it's 3-part. It's competence, autonomy, and relatedness. So competence speaks to, I, as a human being, want to feel like I am getting better. I want to feel like I am achieving mastery of whatever it is that I'm working on. If I just can't figure something out, if I just keep tripping over myself and I just don't get it, well, I'm not going to be attracted to it. But if I feel like I'm doing work and I'm getting better at it and I'm becoming an expert or super proficient, well, that's when I'm going to be developing a real passion for what I'm doing. Expertise will lead to mastery and it'll lead to really feeling good about it. So we need to make sure that we have the resources in this example. And self-determination theory, you can apply it to any aspect of learning. So in this example, with money stuff, we need to be able to give our employees the resources that they need to feel like, okay, I am understanding money. So this is the financial literacy piece. I get it. And then from there, autonomy. The more I can and have freedom to do my work the way that I see fit or the way that I want to accomplish it, the more ownership that I'm going to take over the role that I have. Now, this may or may not be possible. I'm for sure not possible for every aspect of the work that we do, but where are the opportunities that I can help people feel like they have more control over what it is they're doing? So you are interested in helping your people to get good at money. You're providing these resources and you're giving them enough, for lack of a better term, a menu of different options for how to go about learning this. So if that's present, that's 2 out of 3. And then the relatedness piece. One of the opportunities, one of the reasons I like working with organizations and 401k plans is because you, theoretically speaking, already have the built-in culture. You have this built-in community already. And so the opportunity is, how do we plug in these resources to your existing culture, to everything else that you're working on? And the relatedness speaks to, I am part of a supportive community. When I get stuck, who can I talk to? Oh, I know exactly. I've got these great resources. I've got people who support me. There's people that I know are vested and interested in helping to become successful. Or if I needed a kick in the behind to kind of get moving again, because that's something that we all do every once in a while, then the community is there. So the relatedness piece is such an important key to feeling like I'm part of something much bigger than myself and we're all moving in the same direction. So it's competence, autonomy, and relatedness. These are these 3 really, really important keys. And if that's there, then I feeling like I'm getting the most out of what I am doing. I feel connected and I feel like I'm on my track. I'm on track to become successful. So the necessary components of an effective program are, we need to set the strategy. We do need tactics. We need to successfully implement it. And then we need to revisit and evaluate how we're doing. I promised that this wasn't going to be rocket science, and obviously so far it's not. So the desired outcome, I would say that if we want increased financial wellness for our people, the strategy is to create an environment and provide resources so our employees can learn to thrive financially. Okay, so that is our strategy. That is our desire. Some of the tactics, we're going to talk about 401k here in just a minute. All right, so we have that available. We want to make available some kind of learning tools, opportunities, workshops that go to relatedness. Is there an opportunity to offer on-demand financial literacy courses? And through the wonder that is YouTube, there are literally an infinite number of free materials out there that you can put together. And you can put together an entire library on every important financial topic, from cash flow to budgeting to insurance to stock market investing or real estate investing or crypto investing and estate planning and taxes, and you name it. It's a big world, but there are unlimited resources that are out there. And then financial coaching, I think, is something that is a new, for lack of a better term, benefit that goes to the competence piece. So what can we do as a group? What can we offer individually for people to go through? And then how can we really reinforce that and that financial wellness piece of sort of bringing it all together, closing that behavior gap between what I understand and then what I actually do. So how do we actually implement it? I think that I don't think about this. I know there's got to be somebody within the organization whose job it is to really drive this, because I could give you the greatest guitar in the world, the most expensive guitar in the world, but if I didn't know how to play it, it wouldn't matter. Here, play this. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. This is a beautiful guitar. It's just going to sit in the corner. If there's nobody whose job it is, you don't have a champion to drive the success of this, this will be that whole lead a horse to water, but will not drink kind of a thing. And It's got to start at the top. So the leaders in the organization need to say, hey, this is good. This is something we're all going to work on together. Just like the reason that I lead or open most every conversation or talk with telling people that I made terrible financial decisions, I need to be relatable. And so the more relatable we can be and the more we can humanize these things, the more successful it's going to be. So I'm not saying that you need to get up in front of your employees and say, hey, I've made terrible financial decisions, but if you happen to have made terrible financial decisions in your past and you're okay saying that, I think that that'll make you super relatable and it'll make this a lot more accessible to your team as well. So if you offer other employee benefits, doing your best to figure out how to mesh them together, I think is a very, very, very smart thing. And then we want to incorporate as many different mediums as possible. Some folks like to read, some folks like to listen, some folks like to watch videos. And these days, again, there are podcasts, there are YouTube videos, there are blogs, you name it. So much information out there. And if you're not currently doing some kind of a wellness week, I think that's an awesome way to do it. And that could just be one week out of the year. It's a wellness week where one day we're talking about diet and exercise. One day we're talking about healthy eating. One day we're talking about financial wellness. One day we're talking about mental health. And that's all stuff that we can put our heads together on if that's of interest to you. And then figuring out, is this actually working? Is anybody doing it? And what do we need to change? We thought this was going to work great. It turns out it didn't work great at all, or it's working pretty well. What can we do to make it work a little bit better? Taking the long view again, but then measuring engagement, asking people, are you interested in this? Are you actually showing up to it? There's lots of different ways to take surveys these days, but just to ask people. So definitely encourage you to take that part also and actually evaluate how it's all going, because that's a really, really important thing. So thought we were going to talk about 401k. We are, I promise, just about halfway through the conversation here, eventually getting to the Local First 401k. Local First it's a wonderful organization for a million different reasons. And it's a wonderful organization because I have been talking with Kimber and Thomas and Jennifer and all the good folks over there for a long time about leading the way and making this benefit available to the members. And so there's not that many organizations like Local First in the country. They're the leading organization like this, and they're leading the way here as well. So I talked about how a couple of the reasons why organizations resist putting 401k in place is that they are complex. And so when Local First says we are going to go out and do a lot of the heavy lifting and vet providers and find solutions that make the most sense, and they've done that. So it removes a lot of the complexity, the costs that are associated with 401k. I think it's really, really important to be cognizant and understand what those are. And because Local First is offering it as a benefit, it's going to reduce a lot of the costs that are available with it, and then the transparency piece. So it's really important to me that you understand how much everything costs. I want you to know how much the actual 401k costs. I want you to know how much the investments cost. I want you to know how much money that I make as well. So all that's really, really, really important to me. So we're going to talk about what 401k actually is. So let's just do that. So why is a 401k called a 401k? Well, believe it or not, when you open or go to the Internal Revenue Code, IRS code, and turn to section 401k, that's where you find the rules for how the plan actually operates. So it's a super clever name for what it is. It is what's known as a qualified plan for long-term savings. So government recognizes, again, we want people to save money. In fact, we'll be in big trouble if nobody saves any money, because then we'll be responsible for folks when they're old and can no longer work. So they make this plan and give you tax incentives, the participants tax incentives for saving money along the way. So that's what qualified plan means, is there are special tax incentives to get people to actually contribute. So 401k, it is a plan that allows the owner of the company as well as all the employees to contribute a portion of their income on a monthly basis. And if employers decide they're interested in doing that, an employer may also add a matching contribution to the account. So what a 401k is, again, it is an employer sponsored retirement plan. So the company says we are going to make this retirement plan available so that our employees can save money for their retirement. There's a couple of different ways that we can save money. Pre-tax, which is the traditional way, which means you get a tax benefit when you make contributions to the plan, or Roth style, which means that you get a tax benefit when you take money out of the plan. So that is the short way to describe what a 401k plan is. It's a way for employees to save money for their retirement. Is it complicated? Well, it's not uncomplicated. There are a lot of moving parts to 401k that it's important to understand, but by no means is it insurmountable or unknowable knowledge. In fact, we're going to go through it right now, and I think that you'll understand. So let's talk about what we actually need to know. So who is the plan sponsor when it comes to a 401k plan? The answer is you. You, the company, are the plan sponsor for the plan. Okay, so lots of different terminology and jargon, but your company, XYZ company, Cartel Coffee, in this example, is the plan sponsor. So you will offer the 401k plan to your employees. Then we need to have investments inside of the plan. So inside the Cartel Coffee 401k plan, every employee will have their own account. So I get my paycheck, a portion of my paycheck that I get to decide goes into the Cartel Coffee 401k plan, and specifically goes into George's account within the plan. Once it's inside the plan, there are investments inside of the plan. So within the 401k, my job is to help Cartel Coffee, in this example, the plan sponsor, make their investment lineup. So you say, okay, we're going to have 20 different investment options inside of our 401k plan. And it's going to be a mix of all different kinds of investments. And it's a mix of different investments that are going to help every different kind of person feel comfortable with what they're investing in. So some people will be very, very aggressive. They'll say, you know what, I want to get a higher rate of return and I'm more comfortable with risk. So we need investments that are appropriate for that person. Other people say, I'm terrified of investing. I don't know anything about it, and I just don't want to lose any money. So we need conservative investments to make that person happy. And then everywhere in between. So we put together an investment lineup that are comprised of things called mutual funds. And they are well diversified ways for us to invest money. So that, again, is something that we will help you to facilitate, figure it out. Next, there's something called the custodian or the record keeper. So the money needs to be held somewhere. This is a really, really important thing. As we are living through what appears to be another challenging time in the banking world. And the last thing anybody wants is to lose money. And so we're learning again about FDIC insurance and stuff like that. And the reality is that some companies will go out of business. And to protect the investor, so your employees, the money is not held by the company. So it's not held by Cartel Coffee. It's not in their bank account. It's held by a third party called the custodian or the record keeper. So the money is safe. The money is protected. So just in case something bad happens to Cartel Coffee, and I don't mean to use them as an example when bad things happen, but bad things do happen sometimes. The money is still safe. It's held by an independent third-party company called a custodian or record keeper. So that's where the funds are held. And we want to make sure that George's money, when I make my contribution to my 401k, that it goes to the right place. Okay, so that's a really, really, really important thing. And then we have our third-party administrator. And this is really probably the most important part of the 401k plan. And we have gone and selected SunWest Pensions, which is another local company here in Arizona. SunWest Pensions is a leader, an absolute leader in retirement plans, and have been for a really, really, really long time here in Arizona. And Sarah is on our call today, and she is one of the leaders of that organization. So between myself and my firm and SunWest Pension and Teresa Conti and Sarah Johnson and everybody else in the organization, we have made literally as much of the 401k world as local as we possibly can. So these are Arizona-based companies doing great work and very, very, very accessible. We're literally on the call today to answer questions, and we will be the people that you work with should you decide to explore this further. So third-party administrator they are like the accountant, and maybe that's a terrible way to describe it, that they're like an accountant to the retirement plan. So they make sure that we are in compliance, because there are rules on how much money we can contribute and when the money is contributed and how the money is moving around, because it's a lot between payroll companies and financial companies and mutual funds. It's really, really important that we protect everybody's money and that the money goes where it's supposed to, and everything is doing exactly what we hope it to, and that you, the plan sponsor, are protected from as much of the liability as we can possibly protect you from. So we have a lot of jobs. One of them, probably number one, is making sure that the plan sponsor is protected and doing everything that you need to be doing to remain in compliance. And then obviously, we're talking a lot about helping employees. And that's something that we spend a lot of time and energy on, is helping your employees to actually use these. So the third-party administrator, again, they play an integral role in creating the actual plan document. Every 401k plan has a plan document. It's kind of like the constitution for the plan. It's going to lay out all the different rules and regulations and all that stuff. And then every year we go through, actually on a quarterly basis, go through and do compliance testing. Again, like I touched on, just making sure that everything's doing what it needs to be doing and everything we expect it to, and all that good stuff. Fiduciary, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but fundamentally, being a fiduciary means that I'm legally obligated to do something. And when it comes to money, I think it is important to work with people who have a fiduciary relationship, because why would I want to work with somebody who's not legally obligated to act in their best interest? So fiduciary is legally obligated to act in the best interest of the client. And here's a bunch of numbers that I'm not going to go into because it's a little bit beyond the scope of the conversation for today. But what's important is that we have a fiduciary process. And that just says that here's how we're going to monitor our 401k plan. We're going to look at everything on at least a quarterly basis. We're going to document that we did that, and we're going to consistently do it. So that's part of my role and SunWest Pension with Sarah and Teresa, to make sure that we have a good process and that we follow it and that everybody is happy and protected and all these things. Now we need to make sure that our plan, that we have a plan design that is appropriate and fits for what the objectives of your organization are. Because while there are a lot of similarities between 401ks, there are also opportunities to make them different and unique to your organization. So we'll just leave it at that. So lots of different opportunities. And I don't say that, again, the whole idea here is to remove a lot of this complexity, and the value that we're bringing to you is we're going to walk you step by step through all of this in a way that's really easy for you to understand. Because the last thing I want is for you to feel like you have too many choices and you can't make a decision about something. Because again, I know that entrepreneurship is a lot, and I want to make this as easy as it possibly can be, so that you can keep doing what you need to be doing, which is running a great business. One of the options that must be considered and must be thought about is whether or not you're going to be making an employer match. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But you have the and you have the option of doing it. So you could say, okay, great. We want people to be contributing to the 401k plan. Maybe we could put something in place where they say, okay, if you put 6% of your compensation into the 401k plan, then we'll match, or we'll also put 3% in on your behalf. Something like that. There's different formulas that we can work with and choose from in a way that will be comfortable and make sense for your organization. Something called Safe Harbor is a very, very popular form of a 401k plan, and one of those plan design options that we talked about. And what that allows you to do is to make a full contribution as the owner of the company, even if your employees are contributing a small amount. So there's, again, formulas on this, but if you say, you know what, I really, as the owner of the company, I want to be able to maximize my contribution to the 401k this year, then there's something called Safe Harbor, which will allow you to do that by making a contribution to everyone's 401k plan. So this is a way to ensure that you can put the most in while also contributing to everybody else's plan. So that could make sense for you, or it could not. Again, that's something that will certainly help you to do. And a couple of different features which are really, really popular and I think really important are these automatic features. The first one is auto enrollment. And that means that we are automatically going to enroll everybody into the 401k plan. Now, we're not going to do that without telling them. In fact, we will go out of our way and bend over backwards to say, hey, John and Julie, we have a new 401k plan. We are going to automatically enroll you in the plan in a couple of months. If you don't want to be in the plan, you don't have to be, but you just need to let us know. But through different studies over time and research, it's been shown that when you do automatically put people in the plan, they barely even miss the contribution that they're making, and that gets them on the right track. And then auto escalation simply means that every year we're going to increase automatically a little bit of the contribution that you are making, because part of human nature says that we don't always do the things that we should, kind of that behavior gap. So auto escalation is also something that we will help you talk about and decide if that makes sense for your organization as well. So some of the program benefits of the Local First plan that we've been talking about: local support. Again, Sarah's on the call. I'm here. I'm going to give you my phone number. I'm going to give you my cell phone number here in a minute. You'll have my email address, and I want you to reach out to me. I am interested in helping you to bring this to your team, to your company, if it's something you're interested in. Transparency is extremely important to me. The reduced cost piece, we're interested in helping you to be successful. And so that's just an important thing. I don't want cost to be a barrier to you doing this. And I also don't want the complexity piece to be a barrier. I want to make this as easy as possible so that it works. So should you do it? Well, I don't know the answer to that. The answer is not necessarily yes. It could be that the timing isn't right. But with Secure Act 2.0 that just went into effect, Local First leading the way by making this available, I think that it's probably a maybe. I think it's for sure a maybe, and I think it's worth exploring. So how to get started? Just take the first step, and how to get started is let's schedule a call, and I'll get you all the information that you need, or I'll let you know what you need to provide us with in order to maximize our time together, so we can go into it with just as prepared as possible to maximize the time that you allocate towards this. Because again, we have finite amount of money, finite amount of attention, certainly finite amount of time. And I want to be respectful and honor that. So again, the Secure Act 2.0, it makes a lot of tax benefits available here, which really goes a long way to reducing the financial burden of offering a plan like this. And it does it for the first, I believe, 3 years. So for a lot of people, a lot of smaller organizations, it removes almost all of the costs available, or almost all the costs associated with offering a 401k plan. So there's this great mental exercise. It's fascinating. And I'm confident that everybody on this call, if you were to walk past a pond and you'd see a kid struggling, like looking like they're going to drown, that you would jump in and you would save that person. And the interesting thing is that we are aware that people all over the world are struggling and going through terrible things, but we just aren't as interested in that because we don't see it with our own eyes. And I share this because I think that a lot of us on this call are probably not where we want to be with money. So are we able to extend ourselves the same caring as we would give to a stranger that we saw struggling? And that's something I really want you to do. I want you to put yourself, maybe not first, but pretty close to being first. The golden rule of personal finance is to pay yourself first. And that's because if you're in the habit of paying everybody else first, you will get to the end of the month and there will not be any money left over for you. So, and the same thing goes for your employees. These are people that you care about and you are already giving them a career. I think this is an opportunity for you to be helping them with one of the most important things, which is their personal finances. So finally, I'm going to close with, let's see on our time. Excellent. Looks like we have a little bit of time left for questions. I was listening to a podcast, as I have a tendency to do, and it was a story from many, many years ago. And it was, I think it was Jack Kornfield, who is a very spiritual Buddhist person, very, very thoughtful. And he told a story about a woman in San Francisco who worked with the homeless population. And again, this was years ago. And she worked tirelessly and went above and beyond. And even after she got home from long days, on her own dime, her own money, she would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And then she'd go out and she'd hand them out because she wanted to make sure that these people had enough to eat. And word started to get around. And people started to send her notes and started to send her money. And she started replying to everybody. And she'd send them their money back. And on the note, it said, make your own damn sandwiches. So I love that story because we've all heard that saying, be the change that you want to see in the world. And not to be too dramatic about what we're talking about here, but you want to help. There's so many problems that we see every time we open up the internet. There's big problems going on in the world. From you name it, really at every aspect, everywhere you look, there are problems, and that's overwhelming. But something we have direct control over, at least more control over, is how we're interacting and serving the people who are closest to us. And so I think that this is an opportunity and a way for you to do that. And one of the ways that we're struggling the most, again, is with money. And so I think you're in a position to help your people to become a little bit more financially stable and a little bit more financially successful. So let's get started. Here's my information right here. I will put this in the chat, and I'm confident that Jennifer will also send it out. But please shoot me an email and please call me, send me a text message. I have a unique ability to make the longest email addresses and the longest websites known to humanity. So my company is called Financial Consulting Professionals. You know what? I guess there wasn't a shorter way to say that. But there's a lot of different ways to find me, but certainly these are a couple of good ways to do it. So, all right, let's open it up here and answer questions on the chat. I don't know if we have any questions. Adorable Boys, thank you. Thank you for the new one on the way. Excellent. Jennifer.
I just, first and foremost, thank you so much for all of your expertise, your support of the small business, local economy, and just all the great work that you've done for us at Local First and those that we work with. I mean, who knew we were also going to get a motivational speech out of all this too? So thank you. I do have a couple of questions just on behalf of those who couldn't make it. And because this will be shared via recording, maybe others have these questions as well. So typically for a plan participant, it's a great financial incentive for us more than one way. Not only are we saving for our future, but it also helps us reduce our taxable income each year. So would the Secure Act 2.0, would that kind of be the equivalent or counterpart for the employer that's offering this benefit?
That's a really good question and an important one. Yes. So the Secure Act provides a tax credit for a lot of the expenses that are associated with starting the 401k plan. So it's actual dollar for dollar tax credit, not just a tax deduction. And so if, just to use round numbers, it costs $1,000 to start a retirement plan, you are probably could be eligible to get a tax credit for that $1,000. So any tax liability you have at the end of the year can go and use that credit to eliminate it. And then there's also other tax deductions that the employer gets. For example, if you choose to make a matching contribution, there's a little bit of a tax credit there, but there's also a tax deduction that you get for that. So that's for the actual company itself. So the plan sponsor to make the 401k plan available to the employees of the company as a participant, which the owner of the company can be a participant in the plan, and all of the employees are participants in the plan. There are two different ways you can contribute. You can do the pre-tax, or you can do like a Roth IRA or after tax. If I do the pre-tax way, then I get a tax deduction on the year that I'm making the contribution. So that reduces my income tax liability for that year. So that is available. Or if you wanted to do like the Roth IRA, you make a contribution, you don't get the tax deduction this year, but when you take the money out, when you go to retire, that's when you get the tax benefit, and that all comes out tax-free. So.
Wonderful, thank you. Another question that we had is, so the majority of Local First Business Coalition, close to 70% of our association base is employers that have only 1 to 4 employees. What would your advice be for an employer that says, well, I have a really small company, I don't know if it makes sense for me to offer this benefit, I only have maybe 3 employees. Well, I know you're great about just educating people and letting people make their own decisions. How would be the best way to kind of go about that question if we were ever to get that?
Well, I wouldn't let cost stand in the way, because with 4, let's just say, we'll use 4 employees. Sarah and I and Teresa at SunWest Pensions can answer that question specifically depending on that employer, but the cost will almost be nothing between the tax credit and any tax deductions. And that's true for the first 3 years of the plan. So it'll be very, very, very low cost, if any, out of pocket over the course of a tax year to offer this plan. So really, really affordable. And so if you're not sure, well, you're not going to take a big hit financially to do this. So I would say do it. And the first step would be to just have a conversation with us, and you can figure out the financials. And then just let's talk about asking your employees if this is something they actually want to participate in. And that's all language that we can help you develop, and how you sort of announce it, engage interest, and then how you actually roll it out. We want to help people take it from start to finish. So let's explore it, find out if this makes sense for your organization, see if your employees are actually interested in using it. And then if they say, yeah, well, we talk about and actually help you roll it out and implement it and make it successful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I have one other question, but I saw some hands up. So I'm gonna pass the mic at this point and not hog all of the Q&A time.
I do have a question. I know we're at time, but George, if you have a moment, I'd like to ask. Okay, great.
I will stick around for as long as y'all would like me to.
Thank you. This may be going down a whole nother tangent, so please, make it as high level as you would like to, and we can speak another time if needed. Why would a business pick a 401k over another type of plan like profit sharing or an SCP or something like that? Why would they go with a 401k?
So it's a great question. Some of the most common other examples of retirement plans are SEP, also known as a SEP IRA, a simple IRA. I have gone in and helped organizations just set up individual IRAs. So there are so many different options. And one of the reasons that a simple IRA and a SEP IRA were really attractive is that they're extremely low cost. And so now with the Secure Act 2.0 getting passed, it almost levels the playing field with those other options from an affordability standpoint. So I would say just with the new tax incentives that are available, that makes 401k a lot more attractive and it makes a lot more sense. And they provide just a lot more flexibility. So a lot of people like Roth IRAs. And with a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, you can't do Roth. And that may have changed with the Secure 2.0. But historically, that has been the case. So 401k just offers a lot more flexibility. You can put a lot more money into the plan as both an employee and as the employer. So it offers the ability to contribute more and in a lot more ways.
Thank you.
That's a great question, Justine. Thank you so much, George. Sarah, while we have you on the line, George has mentioned your expertise a few times. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the group?
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think George summed it up very nicely. Again, I'm Sarah Johnson with SunWest Pensions. We design, administer, and service 401k plans, and we're also local. We're located off of the 101 and the 202, and we help service the local first 401k plan as well. Aside from that, talking about next steps, George had mentioned having a call. If we can take a look at employee census information at SunWest Pensions, we can generate illustrations, whether you have 2 employees or 100 employees, to show different employer contribution matching scenarios, different solutions. And it's really about identifying the objectives of the owners and of the employees themselves. There's been a big uptick, obviously, just because of the Secure 2.0 tax credits. So if I made a recommendation, if you're thinking about it, I would definitely want to get the process started by June 1st, just to take advantage of a couple of plan design deadlines. George had brought up Safe Harbor, and that helps business owners be able to take advantage of some of those tax advantages in 401k plans. But the deadline is October 1st for the 401k plan to be up and running to be Safe Harbor in 2023. That's probably our most popular design we see with small business owners. So just so we could have everything up and ready, we'll probably want to have those conversations sooner rather than later, get those illustrations ran, talk about those objectives, and just take our time so that we can start looking at onboarding this summer, if that helps, just to provide a bit of a timeline. But thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We will definitely get both of your information out. I see you dropped it in the chat, so thank you for that. We will make sure we get it out to our entire network as well. So hopefully your phones will be ringing off the hook very soon here. Any other final thoughts or questions for the group before we let everyone get back to all the good work that they're doing?
I do have one more.
Go for it.
Okay. How have you seen it happening, or how could we move forward in a positive way with getting clients moved over to local banks? Because I come from a banking background, and local and non, and some offer these account types and some don't. I don't know if you've run into that personally with your firm or with clients that you've worked with. We have a campaign, move your money, bank local, and how do we, connect that for clients, for people who have 401k plans to get over to banking local? Have you run into anything like that?
I know
Oh, go ahead.
that Local First has done a lot of great work and research on the impact of banking locally and keeping dollars in the Arizona community. So finding sort of that data and those studies to be able to say, hey, you probably never even thought about this before, but when you make a decision to bank it at a local Arizona credit union or regional bank, it has a pretty profound impact that we've actually studied and can demonstrate. And here you go. Here are the kind of the key metrics there. So I think a lot of it is just, it's educating people and opening their eyes, because otherwise sometimes who we bank with, for a lot of people, it's something that we haven't necessarily given a lot of thought to. So making people aware of the impact that banking local has, I think, is a good first step.
Great. Thank you so much. Did you want to add anything, Sarah?
Not really. I was actually going to defer to George on that one.
Wonderful. Well, gosh, thank you again for all of your insight and expertise. Such very, very valuable information. We will make sure to share this again with our full network along with your information. And just thank you, everybody, for your good work in building our economy and our futures. And with that, have a great afternoon, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, George.
Bye.
Bye-bye.